Cool, so we're going to go through Poutine's fucking rant.
Yup.
First sentence. The trend of buffing every carnivores while at the same time nerfing herbivore systematically every patch has led to a very predictable side effect of having some few carnivore species being overplayed systematically. The power creep is well at work as it shows. Cool. The herbivores that got nerfed, Jay, they were Packy.
Yep.
And Tanner got its tail slam damage nerfed.
And that's about it.
And that's about it.
Yep.
That's it.
The only thing they made with Packy was you can now not obliterate a Carno all alone.
All alone, yeah.
You have to run, which I guess that makes Packy immediately a bad creature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. Here's the thing that I actually find with the community. We go from, in one argument, we will say, the community will say, well, Carno is a small game hunter. It shouldn't be killing Tanos and shit. It should be killing Packies and Raptors. The devs then nerf Packy, so Carnos can kill Packies. Packy's now dog shit.
Yep.
And then they say, well, Packy should be able to fight Carnos. You can't hold those two opinions at the exact same time unless you say it in a clear, concise way. Which is that Packy can still deal with Carnos. You body fracture or leg fracture that Carno. If the Carno runs towards you, you get an instant head fracture. Right?
Yep.
And then you just hit its leg or its body, and you just fucking bolt. And if you have like 3 Packies, you can just clown on a fucking solo Carno. So, same thing a Raptor can do. Who cares? Anyways, next thing. If I take Tenno as an example, but the annihilation of Packy is also accomplished back to at this point. Fair enough. The annihilation of Packy. Cool. The annihilation of Packy. That's what we're going to call it. Something some of us warned about during the stress test phase. And add up to nerfs and buffs that are systematically in favor of carnivores. Cool. Jay, do you remember a little thing called Vomit Lock with the Serrado?
Yes.
Do you remember Vomit Lock? Do you remember how Vomit Lock was really, really unfun? And it gave Serrado a huge advantage because you would get 5 bites and then you would just terrorize.
Steamroll a creature.
You would just steel roll them. Yeah, you'd steel roll Meccano, you'd steel roll a Tenno. And Tenno was especially fucked by this. But that got taken out of the game.
It got completely rehauled.
It got completely rehauled. And actually, the current Serrado is actually fairly decent against Tenno to fight, believe it or not, because you have a 20-second grace period after vomiting. So even if you fuck up, you have 20 seconds to recuperate and try to, like, prepare a counter.
Yes, or run away.
Which, I mean, me and Haro have already tested. You can't really run away after that. Usually, after the first vomit, especially if you've been trying to kill the Serrano, because you'll get down to about half stam, and the Serrano usually has more than you, and then it will slowly but surely get you. But still, that got taken out. So the biggest nerf so far, if you actually consider the biggest nerf towards a playable, Serrado went from I will gimp Carnos and Tennos to I have to play carefully versus them in one nerf. Yeah. But the annihilation of Packy, anyways. So, what else have you got to say about that? Because obviously we've been talking about this before I started recording. What points do you have to have about the first two things?
Well, I think Poutine is wrong that the herbivores are being systematically nerfed. I think they are being changed to the ways where they have to use their brains as players to beat carnivores instead of just mindlessly attacking a creature. If we look at Packy, for example, in Update 6, everybody was complaining that Packy could solo Carnotaurs because all Packies would do is stun lock them and then alt attack them while the Carno is stunned. Yeah. So what happened was, all they did was simply make it to where Packy fit the niche it was supposed to fit originally, which is, I destroy every small tier in my path, but I have to run away from anything bigger than that by hitting them and then using the fractures as an escape option.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if you really, really think about it with Tenno and Packy, given that Poutine is a content creator, right? So I can, as a fellow content creator, I can understand a thing that most people won't talk about, which is if you want to show off your skills at fighting things, as a Tenno, for example, especially when I made that Tenno montage, in order for me to get all those clips, I had to go out of my way to throw myself into fights. Which means that I'm already putting myself at a disadvantage because I am effectively doing a carnivore role as a herbivore. If, for example, I was in swamp and a group of Cerados came after me, we would have fucking clapped their cheeks.
Yes.
If we used the environment version, we would have clapped their cheeks. We fought them in a fucking field so that they would fight us. So therefore, you can kind of see, maybe from Poutine's perspective with herbivores, he's like, well, I want to kill things with a Paki, but I can't do that. If that makes sense. Because you have to go out of your way to get into a fight. Whereas if you were to play the defensive role, all of a sudden you'd realise, holy fucking shit, I am nigh untouchable.
Yes, I think a lot of this comes from the thought that herbivores should innately be stronger to carnivores. I've seen that a lot around the IO community where players say, man, I think herbivores should just immediately be overall in stats and things.
Yes, we saw that comment by the person on, what's his ex-Jaeger's Discord, was doing that epic thing about herbivores. I mean, that's the only reason why I can think he came to that conclusion. Because that's the conclusion that I reached after trying to make videos about Paki. In which I realised if I just mind my business as a Paki, I can pretty much clap anything that comes after me and just run away and or kill raptors. But speaking of raptors, the raptor pounce being a joke of a move to pull off at zero risk whatsoever. I'm going to call complete and utter bollocks on that one, Chief.
Yes, what would you like to start off debunking this point?
Debunking of this point, right, so as people should know, I like Raptor. I like playing Raptors. I like pouncing things and bleeding them to death. So I've already made videos about the absolute insanity of alt bites and trying to get through the defenses of especially a fucking Tenno, in which you are effectively nearly always trading a Tenno claw attack with a pounce every single time, in which case the Tenno actually wins that exchange. I just, with zero risk whatsoever, that's such a... especially as, just to jump ahead, he ends up talking about how Trudon dying to literal bugs latched or midair at the moment. So you're saying that there is a risk where you're latched on and you still get hit by the alt attack. But the pounce is zero risk whatsoever. That's a level of cognitive dissonance that I cannot actually properly, understand currently. Especially as... if you play smart versus shit like raptors, and you use bushes, and you use the terrain and trees and everything, you can fucking clap them instantly, you know? Just, I don't know, go on, your turn. Fucking...
Yeah, I think a lot of this simply stems from probably the unconscious habit of all the way through update 3 to what we have now. Well, before we have what we have now, you were able to be in an open field against a raptor pack and essentially win the game by just always dodging the pounce by hitting either A or D shift, which would then lead to them being in a recovery animation that allowed you to simply berate them with attacks that CC'd them onto the floor.
Yeah, you just kick them and they'll now be stunned on the floor, yeah.
And a lot of this comes from exactly that. The thing that I don't think a lot of players realize is, if you are able to use your environment well to your advantage, you will never really die to a raptor pack. Unless it's a ridiculously large pack of raptors. Yeah. You will almost always win. You go towards... there are many counters that I can list off the top of my head. There is water, for one, because most creatures can go far deeper into water than any raptor can. Which
never mind mud pools as well. It's like 100% better.
Not only do they lose, get dismounted automatically when you go into the water and they pounce you, but they also, if you put them against the point where they came from, they will get dismounted and swim and have to swim towards the water, the shore again. Which means
if you turn them into water, yeah.
Yes, you can effectively get a free hit, which does a lot of damage because raptors are squishy. Another pounce counter, hills. You put yourself against the hill, and if the raptor pounces, you put him against the hill. This will effectively just means
the raptor dismounts, he hits the hill
next to you.
Exactly,
and you can hit him. Then there are far other, more devastating counters. Mud pools. Not only do they give you protection in the sense that you can slow down your bleeding, but you also are able to alt attack and use your special attacks, like, for example,
Kicks.
Thanos Tail Slam.
Yeah.
And if the raptors try to pounce you, they will get dismounted. And if they do dismount, they now have to slowly trot away from you. And you can berate them. The worst counter
Berate
to
them,
all,
bro.
the worst counter of all, palm tree bushes.
Palm
They
tree
are the
bushes.
worst.
They are indeed.
They are the ones that are the worst counter. Not bushes, it's the palm tree bushes. All you do is stand in one of them.
Yep, and
if
that's
you
it.
do
You
that
can't get
in the
latched.
beginning of the fight, you will win the fight immediately.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is, essentially, is Raptor pounces you, gets knocked off the tree immediately, and is stunned for about 3 seconds. So you can effectively kill them without using any of your stamina-based abilities. So just claw attack them, and you win.
No, exactly. It seems to be, because I remember back in the day when you could flick the Tenno's tail, you could flick the tail during the dismount of the raptor and hit them off of it. So you could just do a purely tail slam based gameplay, which I then find ironic with his, once you get to his later points, about effectively calling raptor players bots who just pounce. Especially when Tenno gameplay for ages was the biggest bot known to mankind, because you would just tail slam to victory.
Yes.
It was no tail slam, no win. Strats every single fucking day, and people ate that shit up. Right? There was no... And now what we see with good Tenno players, we see good Tenno players actually now use all of the moves in their disposal. In fact, it gets to a point where when I make videos about, for example, Serrado versus Tenno, people will write in the comments, why are you running away from the Tenno as it's biting you? Why not just turn around? Like, you don't understand. It can chase me and bite me. If I turn around, it 180 kicks. If it takes one tail slam to the head and 2 kicks to my head, it drops me to 19% health. If they do chip damage worth 19% of my health, I am dead the second I fuck up. And that's just from using all of the... If you just tail slam, though, you will lose that fight. Just... I don't know how to fucking... It's just... It doesn't make sense to me.
Yes. So, Pounce and Raptor being at 0 risk is a 100% wrong thing to say.
It's a fucking lie.
The second a pack of raptors attacks you, they are immediately at risk, because the risk is the second that my opponent starts to use the environment and knows how to use the environment, I lose the battle immediately and I can't go any further.
Exactly. Especially as if you consider the fact raptors kind of want to fight you, weirdly enough, kind of in the plains or more open areas. You don't really see many raptor hunts happen in the forest. And actually, you'll get players who actually run into the forest on purpose to get away from raptors and use that environment against them, weirdly enough. But, yes.
Now, next
one. Being
Poutine
pounced, locking inputs like tail slam while pounce is active, but also after the raptor is dropped off for some time, not only preventing greedy dismarks, but also greedy idiotic raptor utards who run straight at you to pounce because you have one raptor on your back already. For one, this is written like word salad. Let's just break it up. Being pounced locks... I'm just going to rewrite what he says. Being pounced locks inputs like tail slam while pounce is active, but also after the raptor is dropped off for some time. Does it?
Yes.
Yes.
He just basically, what I read from this is just meaning, if a raptor pounces onto you, you cannot tail slam or anything of that sort.
You can still kick though, I'm fairly sure.
Yes. Yeah. I think so too, but even when he dismounts, you are unable to tail slam.
Yeah.
For a while. I think it's until he's already landed on the ground.
That's when he hits the ground. But at the same time, as I was saying earlier on, alt bite spam with Tenno is ridiculously strong. In fact, we got quite a few good raptor players into our server to fight Haru's Tenno. For example, Acronym, who has an entire YouTube channel where like he'll fight Stegos and Solo Carnos and Tennos. Died to Haru in like 30 seconds. Simply because Haru just fucking alt bit everywhere. And he couldn't break that. You know? So even if the cat raptor dismounts, you can still snipe them in the air with an alt bite. So like but also preventing, punishing greedy disembarks. So I'm going to assume what this means is he's effectively talking about tap pouncing. I'm going to assume.
I think it's more so if the raptors try to swarm you all at once and try to get as many pounces as they can. What you used to be able to do is, sure, a raptor has pounced onto you, but now you know the other raptors are going in and you are able to hair slam them in the face as they're
going in. Yeah, that's maybe what he means, yeah.
What he's talking about.
But it could also just be tap pouncing. I can understand why tap pouncing is very, very annoying. Because they latch on before you can even buck, they're already off. And if you try and buck, you actually kind of get stuck in a weird position where you can't really do much. Just a greedy, idiotic raptors who run straight at you to pounce because you have one user on your back already. You can still alt bite them. And you can still buck cancel. Right? And I hate buck cancelling. Because it allows you to be on the defensive and the offensive at the exact same time. And that was in the game for 3 fucking years until I pushed and pushed and pushed and Philippe finally addressed it and said that it was going to get taken out of the game, which I can talk about, because he has said. But still, you know, like, fuck knows. Should we move on to the next one, Jim?
Yes, I think we should.
Also, we will go into EQG for some demonstration, which will help me record the second video I want to do with raptor counters. Shit, I have to scroll back up. So, nerf the clawing while sprinting, which disproportionately affects Tenno in certain matchups. Like, against. You don't need to do like and against. I understand maybe English isn't the first language, but still, I'm just...
It's not.
Yeah, it's fair. That's not a nitpick, it's just a thing just to help it read better. In certain matchups, like Raptor and Trudon, or against Raptor and Trudon. I kind of disagree with that, to be honest. I think not being able to alt-bite while sprinting disproportionately affected everything.
Yes, it did not only affect Tenno or...
No, exactly.
I think the only creature it may have disproportionately affected isn't Tenno, but Paki.
Paki, I perfectly agree with that. Paki, I think, was the one that was most affected by it, which, yes, obviously goes into the point of the annihilation of Paki, but still. It was a...
We will get to that one later.
Yeah, but... Because, like, what I used to like doing as Raptor was you could use the Raptor's alt bite as a defensive, offensive tool versus Carnos, where if you timed it correctly versus the Carno that was going in for a bite, you could actually dodge out the way of it with the alt bite and then pounce. And sometimes if you got really, really lucky and you got really good at it, you could actually sometimes snipe the Carno's head as you went through it and then pounce onto it, which is really nice. That's obviously not in the game anymore because you can't run an alt bite at the same time, but everything lost something. I think Paki definitely, as you said, lost most of that. You can't just run up to a Raptor and just alt bite, knock it over, and then kill it.
Yes.
Which I think goes into Trudon, though.
Next point.
Trudon being just as busted against Tenno. I mean, already that's fucking cap. Right? I think we already know why that is actual cap, but who cares? But dying to literal bugs, latched on or mid-air at the moment. Just, that's not really a bug, that's just desync. It's not, it is just, I've proven the fact that it is just desync. If you look at the Tenno screen, they see you in midair.
Yes.
So once this is fixed, I think people will realize how insanely fast, agile, and deadly Trudon is in certain matchups.
I completely disagree with this.
I completely disagree.
The problem that people don't seem to understand is the biggest problem with Trudon isn't the desync bug where people hit you while you're pouncing on them on your screen. The biggest problem with Trudon has always been from the very beginning that Trudon is a creature that has pounce as its main mechanic.
Yes.
But to 80 or 95% of the roster, it dies in a single hit, no matter which attack they use. This basically just means any of the pounce counters that are already extremely strong against Omnipacks
basically annihilate Trudon.
Indeed, they just completely invalidate Trudon, because what happens is a Raptor pack can at the very least drag out the fight because they use bleed as their killing weapon.
It's a killing weapon.
And if they take a hit of an alt attack from a Tenno, they can take at least 1 or 2 of those and then go off to heal. Yeah. Trudon immediately dies. It just dies. And it crumples like paper.
It needs the raw damage to kill you. Indeed. Which means it has to keep pouncing you. It doesn't reach a point where it has kill confirm. It doesn't. The kill confirm is when they're fucking dead. It just
Yes.
It's just...
So, I think this is wrong. Maybe in an open field against players that are just mindlessly spamming attacks, sure, Trudon could have a chance of killing something.
Yeah.
But the second that the prey starts using the environment, even if they are not good at the game,
using their fucking brain,
the Trudon just loses.
Yeah.
It loses.
I mean, put it this way. As I was saying before, with Tenno Alt Bite being ridiculously powerful, it's even better versus Trudon. Because with Raptor, it's almost against a good Tenno, it almost feels like a 50-50 every time you pounce a good Tenno with a Raptor. If not, you're going to get alt bit. But with Trudon, it's a 50-50 of just instant fucking death.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter how fast or agile it is. It dies in one hit. And it uses pounce to kill you, effectively. It needs to pounce you to get to tier 3. Like,
yes.
Just...
Another thing that I think a lot of players always miss on is not only is Trudon slower than Raptor, I'm pretty sure it also has less stamina. Which means, and because it doesn't use bleed as a killing method, and it does very little bleed, what you can effectively do against a Trudon pack is you can let them get to stage 3, and then what you can do after that is simply run away and wait out the stage, because the Trudons will either miss their pounce when they try to chase after you, lose all their stamina, and you will face absolutely zero repercussion because you don't lose bleed.
Especially if you start moving around at the beginning of the fight. So I've seen it plenty of times playing as Trudon or versing people as Trudon. When they start moving around, I'll just see random Trudons just going for the most risky pounces and completely missing. And each time they're blowing 10% of their fucking stamina pool. Like, I don't know. It's just, it really, the first 4 things of this, when you break it down, really just read as Poutine got fucked over by a pack of like 8 raptors, and then was like, I'm gonna fucking make some shit up to fucking, I don't fuck knows.
Yes. Now, let's keep reading.
Here we see, there you go. Kano being turned into a charge machine, one button joke of a dino, meaning all that they will do is group up and spam charge on repeat with an absurd turn speed, plus damage, plus stamina class, plus basically no more minimum distance needed.
Yes, I agree with this point.
Yes.
I do agree.
I do actually.
Kano is far too overpowered in a group. Even on its own, it's still a very powerful creature.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be far worse when Gateway comes out with the new changes.
100%.
I don't think there's a lot we can do other than talk about it, but the easiest way to really just change this is to nerf Kano's charge damage by a lot.
Yeah, it's an unpopular opinion.
Yes,
every time we brought it up,
almost three times as much as it is currently, because 300 damage, which basically
it's
just
too
means
much.
All they have to do is just hit you with a charge at least 6 times. And what happens when you do that is, as Poutine said, the Carnos can just run through you every time they hit you.
Yes.
They do that 6 times and they win.
So
yes, we agree with this.
This is an actual decent point. And I think he brings it up later on, in which Kano lost everything that made it interesting to play, at least for me. But we'll get to that. But this is in itself a very, very good point. Kano groups need something to, and as Jay was saying, the thing that we figured out is actually it's just Kano charge. If you lower the damage of Kano charge and turn it into just a pure CC button, the same way that Tenno's Tail Slam got nerfed in damage to become a pure CC button, you see what you can do here.
We'll get to this later.
Yeah, we'll get to that later, but still. Next one. Once again about Kano. We've stopped grilling on pounces now. Kano charge no longer being cancelled by Tail Slam. We'll explain in a second. One, which is a joke, a heat-seeking missile that you can't miss, while the other is a time-sensitive attack with the wind-up animation. Now, the reason why Kano charge goes through the Tenno Tail Slam is twofold. One is the way the Tenno Tail Slam is coded, and I've mentioned this ages ago. Actually, I figured this out like 3 years ago. The stun of the Tenno Tail Slam only applies once its tail hits the ground, right? Which means in order to hit a Kano and stun it when it's running at you, the tip of your tail has to go through the Carno's head and then hit the ground. And when it does, the Carno will be just right by your ass cheeks. So it's very, very tight timing. If you get the timing right, and the Carno is observant, they will just stop running. But you stop their charge. You've effectively sacrificed some stamina to stop their charge, which isn't a good trade, but it's something. The second reason is because attacks have priority. Philippe has confirmed this to me. Once again, I can talk about it. Is that certain attacks are designed in such a way that they override other attacks. For another example would be when a Carno is charging, it loses all of its latch points for raptors to pounce onto it. So you cannot pounce a charging Carno. It loses the latch points because the charge overrides the raptor pounce. The charge also overrides the 10 tail slam. So it's about... Yeah.
I don't think both me and Turk agree that Carno's charge should have priority over 10 tail slam.
No.
We do agree that Tenno's tail slam should have priority over Carno's charge, and that one change really makes the matchup between Carno and Tenno far more Carno favored.
The simplest change for the Tenno's tail slam isn't any sort of buffs or nerfs. It's simply to remove the fact that it has to touch the fucking ground before it activates. If you make it so that it's like a hit scan, when it touches them or their hitbox, it applies to stun straight away. Problem now solved. You could tail slam a Carno point blank. And it's basically just whoever lands the hit first. That would be a good fucking change. That'd be fantastic. And it would remove that issue. So like, we once again agree with the Carno point.
Yes. Now,
it is actually
the next point I want to preface. We also agree with.
We also agree with this point. Yes.
It's essentially just talking about the kick hit range.
Yeah, the kick hitbox is basically
far too small.
Yeah, it's non-existent. The amount of time the kick visibly goes through your target isn't registered. It's absurd. 100% true.
Another easy fix for this is simply giving it a different animation, and an animation that actually already exists in the game. Tenno's bucking animation.
Tenno's bucking animation, exactly.
Are further than the normal kick would. So all you would essentially just have to do is just put the buck animation of a Tenno on the actual kick.
Yeah.
And that way the hit registration would immediately be fixed.
I mean, one idea that I came up with, I was talking to Haru about this, is what if when the Tenno does its kick, with its front legs, it pushes itself backwards. So actually, it doesn't just kick, it yeets its fucking kick into you. So the kick moves it backwards. Which, if you think about it, that little bit of movement and momentum could be used to chain different attacks together. That ability to move, you could kick backwards and then alt bite to turn yourself completely 180, which would be an incredibly offensive movement-based tool. You know?
Yes.
You could kick out the way of certain attacks and then, you know, follow up. Kind of cool. It would also solve the issue where when you do actually hit a Carno with a tail slam or a Serrado with a tail slam, and you kick them, your kick misses because they're too far away. If you moved backwards, you'd be pushing into them each time. And then when they start to run away, you're already inside of the hitbox, you then alt bite as they're running. So you get that extra bit of damage in. That'd be beautiful.
Yes.
But...
So, the next point that Poutine mentions
is
a massive knockdown duration nerf. And he says this proportionally affects Tenno, but I disagree.
100%.
I think the one creature that is absolutely the most affected by this change is solo Carno players.
Yeah.
Carno relies on knocking you down to get a kill confirm. And currently at this point, a solo Carno doesn't exactly have that.
No. It's too easy to dodge the charge.
Yes. Not only is it very easy to dodge the charge, at the same time it is a fact of, even if you get hit by the dodge, 80% of the time the Carno will keep moving through you after you hit it. Will have to then turn around and come back at you. Now, with Carno's current really bad acceleration, it can't get up to speed fast enough to get to the knockdown prey, and then in that turn, get the kill confirm in.
Yeah.
So, the biggest creature that is actually affected by this change is solo Carno players.
It's actually solo Carno, yeah.
Tenno, I'd say, is still fine with how it is. If you tail slam something, instead of now, from what I've seen every time I've played Tenno, instead of being pushed far away like it used to, it simply just puts the creature to the floor. It doesn't shove them away like a knockback and knockdown. It just puts them to the floor, which means you have the time and the range to run over and then kick them in the face and win. This is the most seen against Sarah. You can simply tail slam a Sarah, and you have enough time to run in
and kick his head.
Get 2 head kicks
you can still
on.
get 2 head kicks. Exactly, you can still get 2 head kicks on versus Serrano, even if you tail slam it in the head. Like, you just need to be ready to do it. You have to know what the plan is before you tail slam. So, I just don't know. I just find it.
And yeah.
I mean, technically speaking, you could also say that, like, especially with solo Kano, as you were saying, it does need that knockdown to confirm the kill at the end. You know? Especially versus... when I got Erin and Killer to play against each other, and Killer's entire Tenno playstyle is designed to counter Kano's. Erin had to land charges and get the 2 bites in to bridge the gap from every time that he missed. You know? And it's really easy to dodge charges now, believe it or not. They fixed the hitbox. It's very easy to dodge.
Now, the last point, we completely disagree. It is outright wrong, I'd say. And the last point is basically just damage nerfs to tail slam despite being the most reliable attack since kicking is playing Russian roulette. Now, the last part I do agree. Kicking needs to be fixed.
Kicking needs to be fixed. Yeah.
But the actual nerf to the tail slam damage is the best change, I think, the devs could have made to Tenno over any other.
And they need to do the same thing to Kano as well. Yeah.
What this change does is exactly what Poutine in the previous points has been complaining about, which is a one-trick pony creature that relies on a single button to win the match. Tenno, from update 1 all the way to update 4 or 5 it could simply just spam alt and right mouse button to win against you.
Yep.
The hit tail slam was the most OP ability probably in the game, aside from Dino.
Obviously, yeah. Oh, you can't really.
It had the range, it had the speed, it had the damage, it had knockdown and CC. You could aim it to the sides, you could snipe things with it. It made Tenno essentially a very boring creature to play with. I think the Tenno we have now, and have had since update 5, is the most fun creature you could have played in Arima still to this day. It's a creature that really shows what the game has or should always be, which is use everything that is in your kit. A dinosaur's kit is designed to have a kit. You should use all of your kit to kill something. As a Tenno, I don't think tail slamming a Carno 5 times and winning because I can is fun. I think what's fun is I tail slam him and use that tail slam as a CC ability, and then I go in and try to kick him, and while he's then running away from my kicks, I will either claw attack him to get extra bleed and damage in, and then start chasing him with bites. I think that is one of the best additions they could have made. Well, not additions, but balance changes they could have made to Tenno, which is really just making it use its kit to take down its opponents.
No, yeah. It seems disingenuous to complain about Raptors and Carnos being one-button mashers, whereas the thing that you were harking about is the good old days of Tenno, where you could just tail slam everything to death. Especially as when we were talking about good Tennos now, they used their whole kit. They used everything in their disposal to dispatch of things hunting them. You know? So it just feels, I don't know, it just feels, I'm trying to figure out where the idea is coming from. And the only thing I can think of is a whole idea of, like, you know, it used to be like this, I want it back, which I disagree with, because it's been a healthy, I mean, in fact, other Tennos I've spoken to, especially Haru, has said that the lowering of the damage of the tail slam was a really, really good tool in groups of Tennos, because it meant that groups of Tennos could actually tail slam Raptors off of each other and kill them with a kick, instead of doing mass amounts of damage to their teammate when doing this. It gave new options to use the tail slam when you couldn't do before. So, I don't know, like, that final point sounds sensible because it's talked about the kick. So if you combine the kick hitbox, which is basically non-existent, so you're reading this, you go, yeah, the kick hitbox is really, really shit, you're absolutely correct. And then you read damage nerf to tail slam, you go, oh my god, yeah, Tanner was fucking annihilated. But there's still ways around it. I haven't struggled with Tenno. It doesn't mean there aren't problems of it. I haven't struggled with it. Especially with Poutine, who's meant to be the Tenno god. I haven't struggled with Tenno. I've killed Serrado solo with Tenno. I've killed Kano solo with Tenno. So does that make me a better Tenno player than Poutine? I don't fucking know. But I don't know. It's just I don't agree with a lot of these points before we get into the big fucking paragraph, I suppose.
Yeah, so just as a side note to preface this isn't something against Poutine. We made this not to bash on Poutine. We made this to just highlight and showcase some things that is widely spread around the community, which are a lot of misconceptions and, quite frankly, would make the balance far worse if the devs were to balance the game around.
No, yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. Like if we got damaged tail slam back into the game, that just wouldn't be fun. You know?
Yes.
You just, I don't know. Obviously, once again, also as Jay was saying, my point about am I a better player than Poutine was basically highlight the fact that while I agree with his points about Tenno's kit needing to be changed, I don't see it as this serious thing, especially when we start to consider the things he says in the giant paragraph underneath it, and how overhyped he makes these issues. They are issues. They can be fixed. There's no need to go into this giant crusade, in my opinion. But should we get to the paragraph then, Jay?
Yes, yes.
Cool. So the Herbivore experience has been going systematically downhill since for quite a while at this point, and probably more than a year. A similar list of massive nerfs combined with massive buffs to every carnivore could be dressed up for Packy. Not only is it making herbivores miserable, it's also making playing most carnivores dull and boring. Let's just focus on this part first. So the herbivore experience is going systematically downhill. Would you agree or disagree with that, Jay?
It's a mix of both, I'd say. I think for a lot of players that really enjoyed PvP and killing the opponent as much as they could, I think it definitely toned it down. I think on a survivalist perspective, it encouraged the game more. Packy is the best example, as Poutine said, not in the sense of herbivores being systematically made worse, but the devs pushing for a survival-focused play style.
Yes.
Packy was, from the very beginning, if you were to watch live streams or Q&As back then, Packy's old idea has forever been, I will kill everything that is within my size range very easily because I'm a Packy, but everything above my size range, I can't fight. What I will do is I will break their leg, break their body, break their head, and I will use that as an escape option to run away. And Packy can do this. All you really need to do against a Carno is hit its body or hit its leg, and you win the fight.
You know? You just run.
Now,
it can't afford to chase after you after that. And if it does, it's fucking stupid.
I agree. Now, there are some issues, like, for example, Packy needs to trade hits.
Yes.
Which effectively means you'll be at either 20 or half of your HP if you try to do that.
Especially
the
as there is
easiest way to really fix this, instead of adding back stuns on every single hit you do as a Packy, what you could do is, until you break the body part that you are trying to break, you will stun the creature, which means essentially, if you hit the head once, it will stun the Carno.
Yeah.
If it weren't to break the head at that point, and you hit him again, it would still stun the Carno. But only once he has its head broken, and you hit his head again, he won't be stunned anymore.
Yeah,
this is the easiest way to fix Packy.
I always like the idea that the Packy gets a stun when it fractures you on each body part.
Yes.
So you have 3 stuns. So you could basically already play this fight out in your head. You don't need to take it to live to see how it works. You can play it in your head. Kano runs towards you because it's being fucking stupid. And even today, when me and Jay were playing Packy, the Kanos did this. He just ran directly at us. You rear up, you hit it in the head. It cancels its charge, it now has a head fracture. With our idea, it would now be stunned for like 2-3 seconds. You could then go up and then hit its body, which then also stuns it, which then gives you the time to make the distance to then fuck off and run away. If you continue to push your luck, however, the Kana will eventually get you. Especially if the Kana was smart and doesn't just chase after you to begin with, and actually moves and dances around you to try and get hits. You know, like, I don't know, it's just, that just seems like the more friendly idea.
Yes.
for Paki.
It would make Paki good alone, where you can escape a creature without essentially getting your ass handed to you.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, it wouldn't make packs of Pakis overly busted.
Yeah, and then if you come across 2 Carnos as a Paki, it's either A, you play especially well to debilitate one of them and then run and hope that the other one tries to protect his teammate, or B, you just get folded if there are 2 Carnos, in which case you just run to begin with and try and get somewhere where you can lose them, which you can do. Like forests, for example, are very, very good. You run into a forest, you're basically gone. That's it. You don't exist. Goodbye. So, yeah.
I think, like I said, it's in a perspective of, man, I want to kill every creature I see in my path, which is the PvP mind aspect, the deathmatch aspect that is just in this game and has been in this game since the very beginning. That conflicts with the survival aspect that players don't enjoy, because I agree, there's nothing else to do but fight in this game.
Yes.
However, I don't think that just because there's nothing else to do in this game, that now automatically means you should balance the game around it being a deathmatch game.
Exactly.
I think the devs should continue to balance the game around being a survival game and not a deathmatch game.
No, exactly. I definitely think that the point that I made to you and Aaron about people's conflicting ideas about Kano, I think actually applies to Paki as well. My point with Kano is that everyone's like, well, we want, chase, pursuit Kano back, or we want ambush Kano. I think the whole issue with it is that the devs introduced a dinosaur that was capable of doing certain things, and they then experimented with those things, changed their mind, and now people are split because they want what they used to have, even though it isn't the direction that the game is going. I think the same thing applies for Paki and to a small extent Tenno. They were able to do certain things. For example, slightly hypocritically when it comes to button mashing or being a fucking gimp, they could just spam a certain attack and get away with it and hit things way harder than they ever had any right of doing. And when this got changed, people are like, well, it used to do this, and now I don't like it. It can't do this anymore. And it's like, fair enough, whatever you say. But I also feel that exact same way about Raptor. But I think it's a good thing it was changed. For example, when alt bites were way slower, Raptors didn't have to worry at all about pouncing you. They would bait out the alt bite, pounce you. You could always get free bites. Now it's a bit more difficult. It takes a more precise timing, especially on dismounts and especially on mounting on. But I think that's a good change. It takes away the absolute, even though Poutine says you just drool on your fucking keyboard and, you fucking win. Oh, I think he says that later, actually. But still, it's like, that may have been the opinion ages ago, but it's not now. There's more depth to it. I actually need to weigh up my risks and rewards every time I go for a pounce to see, actually, is this fucking worth it? I don't know, it's strange, in my opinion. I don't think herbivores were nerfed. I've seen a few people talk about how there's less herbivores now, and there's not. There are loads of herbivores.
Yes, just today.
Just today alone.
We encountered 2 whole herds of herbivores.
Yeah.
One massive herd of herbivores at center, and then a
giant herd and sense.
At least a herd of at least 4 stegos.
4 stegos, a few galleys,
and galleys.
Yeah.
All in south. So
at the same time, there was another herd of pretty much the exact same makeup in center. Right? Like, it's I just don't know where that idea comes from of just there are no herbivores around, it's just carnivores, yada yada yada. It's just not true, unfortunately. It's not. That's of course my experience and our experiences have been so vastly different from everyone else's, but we're playing on official servers. We keep seeing the same thing. So it's either a lot of people are lying or a lot of people just don't notice it, which confuses me. But who knows? Anyways,
next few things in the paragraph.
Carnotaurus has lost anything that made it actually interesting to play, at least for me. Utah, actually, let's just focus on that, on just Carno. Carno has lost everything that made it actually interesting to play, is a point that I actually kind of fucking agree with there. A group of Carnos is fun in the aspect of, holy fucking shit, we just fucking goobed that guy into the fucking, with a group of 3 Carnos, you effectively are able to reintegrate people into the fucking soil, which is fair enough, and that's kind of fun. But the actual combat isn't really interesting with Carno, and a lot of people that we've talked to say that they miss Carno from which was it update 5.5 Jay with
update 5.
Update 5. They say that they miss update 5 Carno with its movement options to be able to actually dance around people and get in damage. So it definitely seems that Carno has lost something, but the devs seem to be moving away from that and into just purely ambush-based Carno with speed and acceleration to get you down quickly. But what's your take on that, Jay?
I don't have much of a take. I never really found Carno to be the most interesting creature. The only reason I really played it, and I'll admit it, this is something that is kind of hypocritical. The only reason I played Carno was because it was the best creature I could play without being punished for playing that creature.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair opinion.
I've already said a lot of times how I wish Carno to be played, which is very contrarian to what the populace believes, which is Ambush Carno. I think Ambush Carno could work far better than a Pursue Carno would, and it would also be balanced far easier.
Yeah, Pursue Carno has too many issues with it that stack up too quickly.
If the game were to stay as it is.
If we were to stay, exactly. So yeah, I actually kind of agree with this in a sense. But I won't say it's lost. Has lost. I don't think anything's meant to be everything, but it's lost everything that made it actually interesting to play. Yeah, I'd say I kind of agree with that. It's lost bits of its identity, and the devs seem to be pushing it towards ambush. And my opinion, yeah, and I think it's now going to take a new identity, especially when we start seeing bigger dinosaurs be added into the game. In my opinion, I don't think that's going to kill Carno. I think what it's going to do is that it's going to shift people's attention away from, is there a Carno here, to is there an Alberto or an Aloe here? It means you're not ready for Ambush Carno. And then Ambush Carno appears, hits you, gets a ton of damage in, and effectively puts you on the back foot instantaneously. So,
or just kills you.
Or just fucking kills you, if you're like a Raptor or a Paki, yeah. So, Utah is one big joke of assisted gameplay. Fucking schlurp harder. You close your eyes, draw on yourself, and then the down thing will take care of itself. The only thing keeping, and we'll get to our second point actually, because that brings us back to Carno. We've already talked about, or well, at least I have properly, about why I do not fucking believe this at all. Raptor is not a joke of assisted gameplay. I think the fact that there are so many fucking videos on YouTube, even the last few months, about how bad the average Raptor player is, if they were that fucking bad, then they clearly aren't being assisted. You know, like, if that makes sense. Like a Dino player, for example, I would say that a Dino player, no matter how fucking bad they are, is assisted, because it's just, it lunges you, you are dead. You spawn in as
your ass handed to you and you can hide away.
Exactly. You spawn in as a Juby Croc, you get your perfect diet. 15 minutes later, you can now lunge adult raptors and Pakis. That, in my opinion, is fucking boosted assisted gameplay. And judging by the Apex system the devs want to bring in, where Apexes will go faster at the beginning of their growth and then slow down, will mean that when things like Rexes come out, for example, within the first hour of being a Rex, in theory, you could reach like 40-50% of your growth and weigh like 4 tons. Within the first like hour and a half maybe. That's insane! That's fucking boosted! You know? Like, you close your eyes, draw on yourself, and then the damn thing will take care of itself. I don't understand that at all. Especially, and once again I'll bring up the point that Poutine is a very good Tenno player. His entire channel has been based around the fact that he is the Tenno god. He is meant to be the Tenno god. Yet if he is complaining about Raptors or assisted gameplay, you would therefore assume that he's talking about Raptors that he fights against. And if they're beating him, then what is he doing that is allowing them to beat him? If they're so boosted and assisted, you know?
I think something that needs to be highlighted more. Raptors are not carried by their ability. They are carried by the opponent they face.
Yes, 100%.
I've seen a lot of players in the community various times say Raptors can kill X creature, mainly Stegosaurus.
Many Stegosaurus.
And I will say this right now, I'll put the cards on the table. No. In any case scenario of conventional ways, which are no mixed groups and no going over your group limit, and good versus good player, Utah Raptors will never, ever kill a Stego. It is impossible. Quite literally impossible.
Yeah.
The players that kill Stegos are not good Raptor players. They are simply facing bad Stego players. Very bad Stego players at that.
Yeah, it's
like
easier to say that the Stegos are bad, yeah.
Yes. Like I've said earlier, it doesn't take a lot to beat a Raptor. All it takes is for you to know how to use your environment and which environment to use, and you win the fight. This does not... If Raptors were assisted by pouncing, they would win either way. It doesn't matter if you use your environment. It doesn't matter if you don't use your environment. They will win. This isn't the case. The case is in an open field with no environment to help you, help aid you in your fight, and you're outnumbered in a pack, like 5-1, you will lose and die. I don't think that is the creature being carried by its ability. I think that is simply balancing.
Yeah.
And the balancing lays in, if you are outnumbered, you shouldn't win face value.
Yeah.
Just because you are X creature. Now, some creatures, sure. If you are outnumbered 2-1 as a Tenno, I think you should still stand a very good chance of killing the Raptors.
And you probably will.
You do. The underlying issue with Raptor packs right now is not that they're getting carried by their ability, is that their ability has an issue. I don't know if it's bug or intended. I'm guessing it's intended, which is they can get onto you and effectively deal as much bleed as they would normally, and then get off without any repercussions of...
Oh, you mean the tap pounce thing?
Yeah, the tap pounce.
The tap pounce is an intended thing, and the reason for that was due to group gameplay. Yeah. Some people might not really know that, so I'm just reiterating that point. I explained it before. The idea is that if you're going up against a group of people with a pack of Raptors, the chances of you being hit off when you're latched on increases the longer you're on, obviously. So they added in a buffer where you deal slightly more bleed at the very, very beginning to mitigate that fact. So you still get something out of it. And whether or not that should be a thing in the game is a different conversation, of course.
Yes.
But
I think it should be gone. I think that is what makes Raptor so strong right now.
Yes.
But the underlying fact is, if you are a good player and you use your environment, you will win against a Raptor pack 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And if you are a Stego and a good Stego player using the environment, you will never ever die to conventional ways of the game.
Like, to bring up Troodon as well, sorry to interrupt you again. Whenever I see videos of, we kill a Stego with fucking Troodons, one, you never really see how many Troodons there actually are. We're going to assume it's within pack limits. But two, the Stego almost nearly always ignores the fucking Troodons almost. It almost looks like a fucking paid person was paid to play that Stego. I'm not saying it is, I'm just making a joke. But like, the Stego plays so fucking dog shit. You just walk around in a field, swinging out the fucking voices in their heads, and just get fucking pounced to death. And we've calculated, it's something like 118 something pounces to kill a fucking Stego. If within 118 fucking pounces you cannot kill 10 Troodons, that doesn't really say much about the Troodons. It says a lot about you though, when you have 118 fucking chances, and you missed every single fucking one. Especially as, in the amount of time it takes to do 118 fucking pounces, when you also consider the 5 seconds you need between each pounce for tier 1, 2, and 3, right? You have time to get into a fucking bush. And the second you do, those Troodons will fuck off. Because they can't do anything to you. It just, you know, like, I could spin this conversation about Raptor is one big joke of assisted gameplay, and I could say, using the environment is a big joke of assisted gameplay. Like, I could play against the worst fucking Tenno known to mankind, and he sits in a fucking palm bush, and I can't do anything to fucking kill him. He just kicks and tail slam spams, or alt bite spams, and he's dead. You know? That's such assisted, boosted gameplay. But I'm sure that won't take, you know, 182 likes. You know, I'm fairly sure it'll take 182 fucking dislikes. But you can say the exact same thing. It's a part of the game. And it also seems that a lot of people seem to play this game in what I would say they want to play Legacy, but they're playing Arima, when what they really want to do is play Legacy, where you can't use the environment as much, where you can run through trees, where you can run through people, where you can just chase after people no matter what the fuck you're playing and just be like, haha, fuck you, I terror you to death, uninstall the game. Whereas Remo is more complicated. Yeah, complicated than that. But, yeah, I don't know.
So I think we made a point on that one.
No, I've made a point, yeah. Let's keep going, fuck it. Got way too passionate on that one, just because I was talking about raptors. I'm tired of it. I'm so tired of it. The only thing keeping raptors in check is how busted Kano is.
Just quick side note. I don't want to get too deep into this one. No, it still is the environment.
It still is the environment, yeah.
The only thing keeping raptors in check is how hard environment Kano is.
I would actually say that Cerados keep raptors more in check than fucking Kanos do.
Yes.
I think the very existence of Cerado puts Raptor in check. It's a dinosaur you cannot easily bleed out compared to Kano. Like, if a Kano is running, if it's just running the whole fight, and you get 9 tap pounces in, there is a high likely chance it just fucking dies. It just fucking dies. Cerado, you do 9 pounces, the Cerado doesn't give a fuck. It doesn't give a single fuck. It looks at you with that dollar store tap pounce and just fucking alt bites your ass. Doesn't care.
Yep.
Just.
Now this also means if the Sarah happens to kill one of you,
yes, it now
the fight is
has
effectively over.
Yeah. It now has a body buff as well. And it can stand there, which means it doesn't have to chase after you, which means it won't be draining its bleed as fast. And it got a buff towards its standing bleed. So it takes less bleed when it's standing than it used to. So, yeah, I definitely disagree with that. I don't know. Maybe if we were talking about update 5 Kano, I'll be more inclined to believe this. But current Kano, no.
No, the funny thing is actually, update 5 Kano was kept in check by raptors.
That's, you know what, that's actually a good fucking point. Yeah, as I was saying that, I was like, no, I said something wrong. You're absolutely correct. Yes, we used to fucking gimp Kanos as raptors. To be honest, I think back then it used to be if you dropped your entire stamina pool into a Kano, it would bleed out. I'm fairly fucking certain.
Yes.
Yeah, which is 21 seconds worth of pouncing.
Yeah. Keeping going.
Trudon Glazers. Well, probably being fun if the random deaths to whatever was fixed is probably way too strong and almost just as risk-free as Utah. Well, we've already told you that it's not a fucking bug that causes you to die in midair or when you're latched on, it's server desync. So basically, better netcode would solve this issue, or if the server did checks and balances. For example, if the alt bite hit on your opponent's screen, the game would check if you were actually in that position or if you were latched on. This would, however, mean that for quite a few players, you would be being hit randomly, or B, it's very, very hard to now hit people. That's what that would cause. It would be harder for both sides but to hit each other. So, take it or leave it, is my whole opinion. I do not think Trudon would ever be... No. I mean, Raptor's not even risk-free to begin with, so...
We've already talked about this.
Yeah.
Even if the desync was fixed, all it takes is a single bit of environment usage and Trudon just immediately loses.
I mean, what we're doing here, effectively, is we're backing up a claim with a claim. So we have a claim that doesn't make any fucking sense. Raptor is fucking, assisted, wheelchair, fucking boosting, epic gamer lean, steroids. And now we're saying that Trudon's the exact same thing. However, we're also saying there is a probability of random deaths from pouncing. So is there a risk to pouncing or is there not a risk to pouncing? You can't have it both ways. You cannot say if Trudons weren't hit mid-pounce or when they're latched on and die immediately, they'd be just as strong as raptors. Do raptors also get hit mid-pounce or when they're latched on? Well, yeah, they also do, but it's boosted gameplay. Huh? My brain, make it make sense. That's what I'm asking, is make it make sense.
No, ongoing.
We're a fucking hour into this, I'm fairly sure. Thank you, fucking Poutine, for giving me an hour-long fucking video. Anyways, gameplay-wise, I can say, at least for me, that what made me love this game is evaporating in every patch. We haven't said what that is yet. The gameplay is being severely dumbed down in favour of cheap, lock this, lock that mechanics, and having dinosaurs starting to revolve around single abilities, gameplay ends up restricting and playing certain species. Well, there is the immediate dunk, Do you want me to do the immediate dunk? Or do you want to do it, Jay? The immediate dunk here is gameplay being dumbed down. For example, if we buffed Tenno's Tail Slam, so you could just Tail Slam spam to kill a Kano. Is that dumbed down gameplay?
Yes.
Consider. I would say that is dumbed down gameplay. If a Paki is able to spam charges into a Kano and just fucking delete it, is that dumbed down gameplay? I would say so. So it seems to be a thing where I could, if I really, really wanted to, take this entire message and make Poutine look very, very malicious, in which he paints this picture of the herbivores being weak, and herbivores were only good when they could just spam attacks and kill everything in their path without any sort of strategy. But the carnivores doing the same thing, which they don't have to, we've already proven. Raptors and Troodons can't do it. Zerado can't fucking do it. Kano can't fucking do it. So who is this invisible boogeyman? You know, the only actually invisible boogeyman is 3 Kanos that just charge spam you, but that's a different case. And we've also said we disagree with that. As in, like, that gameplay, a loop with 3 Kanos is atrocious. But, like,
Yes.
it's just in favor of cheap lock this, lock that mechanics. Like stunning people with a tail slam over and over again and spamming it. Fair enough, I agree with that. Thank you, Poutine, for invalidating your own idea of a damage nerfs to tail slams. I appreciate you fighting the good fight. And also, Dino starting to revolve around single abilities, gameplay ends up restricting playing certain species. So, for example, the way that Tenno was designed for about 3 years, in which you just tail slam to win. Raptor is just... Raptor's based off pounces, Kano's based off ambushing you and hitting the charge, Cerado's based on vomiting you, Paki's based on fracturing you. Are these not all dinosaurs revolved around ability that makes them different and unique? Is this a bad thing? I don't understand dinos starting to revolve when they always have.
Yeah, something that I wanted to note that the devs have mentioned in one of the dev blogs is the game now feels a lot more fluid. There's less of, like Poutine said, which is lock this, lock that, because before what happened was essentially the game was I hit you with X equals your death.
Yes.
Immediately with no counterplay.
Very much
This
so.
isn't the case. Before this, what happened was Raptor, the second he missed his pounce against any decently okay player,
He would die.
the Raptor died
Yeah,
immediately.
pretty much.
The game now feels a lot more fluid and a lot more movement based. Tenno versus Cerrado is one of the best fights I think you could have in this game.
Yes.
It is a game of constantly moving around,
Yeah.
constantly repositioning yourself, and constantly trying to dance around the other creature that you're playing
it's
against.
constantly balancing your advantage versus the player's advantage and finding that opening to punish and push your advantage ahead, which is wonderful.
And it's also still not a case of, if I hit X on you, this now means immediately that I win. It doesn't. This means I get the advantage over you now.
Exactly.
Which I think is far more fun, because this offers for the opponent to be either, if they are absolutely cracked at the game, pull off one of the best comebacks the game history has seen.
100%.
You couldn't get that before.
I mean, like, even playing Tenno, I've had situations where playing Tenno versus a Cerrado where I have been vomited and I still win that fight. You know? Because I understand where my advantage is. The Cerrado normally gets cocky, and then I wait for him to go into my hitbox and kick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just... I don't know. It's just... Gameplay's being severely dumbed down. I would say gameplay's being made more complicated. If you look at the new dinosaurs that are coming out alone, Dilo takes the Venom concept and goes fucking wild with it. It fucking sends you to Silent Hill, sends out hallucinations that come after you. It creates a completely different combat situation in which you feel isolated, even if you're in a group. That is a bunch of not only showing the personality of the Dilo, it not only creates an atmospheric fight, it not only creates something engaging with counterplay built into it, but it's just a very complicated but seamless process that you can pick up and understand. Bibble has a strafe, it has a charge, It has a stance, or it can lower its damage to its head. That doesn't sound too... Yeah, it doesn't sound too dumbed down to me. You have Aloe, which is Aloe, and just has a fucking grapple and does some shit. But still, you know, like, there are different... I mean, even the dinosaurs that have come out just now, Cerado's not simplistic at all. I mean, it is pretty simplistic, but it's not dumbed down. It has a mechanic, it needs to work to get that mechanic to work. Beppy, in my opinion, is fucking amazing. You know, Beppy, in my opinion, was the highlight of those 4 dinosaurs that came out. Gally was the highlight, but then they nerfed Gally, which was fucking stupid. But Beppy was the highlight. It was a simple concept of a duck that swims like a fucking dolphin. And they made it work, and they made it fun and enjoyable. And it surprisingly is able to hold its own against smaller dinosaurs like Trooodon, for example, or like Juvies, which isn't saying much, but it's fucking fun and interesting. You know, it could have just been a simple fucking duck that does nothing, but it has substance to it. It has character. It has personality. I don't understand where this idea is coming from, where it's dumbed down in favor of cheap lock this, lock that mechanics.
No, anyways.
Next one. Most people choose the easy path and will not play something knowing that old cards are stacked against them. The ecosystem variety is getting worse despite new dinosaurs being added. I mean, I disagree with this.
I just say, example update 6 and update 5, the easy path was going everything but raptor, because what you would do, even if you're up against a raptor pack, is the second you see one running at you, you just hold D shift, make them miss their pounce, and then they are locked in place for about 1.5 seconds.
Pretty much.
And you rail them,
and
you win.
Yeah, it's...
So, wrong.
Very, very wrong.
And even to this day, there is still a very easy path, which basically, when it comes to against raptors, is just using the environment
in a bush.
I mean, the game. Now, there are some things that I think would need much better balancing.
Yes.
One of the biggest problems that Poutine didn't seem to mention is dinos being the primary dinosaur that cucks Tenno and Sarah gameplay.
Yes.
Tenonto and Cerrado, both alike, would be probably the most highest S-tier creatures in the game.
If not
Dino
for Dino, yeah.
In the game.
Exactly. They both have shared the fastest swim in the game. But one for Dino, that'd be insane.
Not only do you now have a creature, in Tennoid, for example, that can take on packs of raptors, can take on solo Carnos, solo Sarahs, but even then, if you start taking losses as a Tenno, what you do is simply, if Dino weren't to exist, use the water and you win the game.
Exactly. Which, believe it or not, is what people used to do before Dino came out.
Exactly.
You would see Tennos camping the water side, and the second they started getting low, whoops, swim across, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
so,
it would also make Swamp a far more interesting place.
Yeah, so that is definitely one of the things that I don't think Poutine has mentioned, and he overlooked, which is one creature. If one creature wouldn't be there, Tenno would immediately be exponentially better.
Yes, 100%. And it's strange that he didn't mention that at all. Yeah, he didn't mention Dino at all during this. I will admit, I don't think the idea of the easy path has happened to the game yet. I think the introduction of Aloe will introduce the idea of the easy path. From what we know about Aloe and from what we've talked with QA members about Aloe, which I can't say, but what we've talked about and what we've learned, it seems to be Aloe is going to create the easy path. The chosen one, if you will. Right now, I see every single dinosaur being played. Fuck it, I see Hipsies being played. I play Dryo sometimes, just to fucking dunk on people. They forget Dryo exists. And I try and get charged by a Carno, I just dodge it, and I go, haha, lol, teabag, run away. Every dinosaur's being played. The dinosaur... Yeah, I'm just making some more points, weirdly enough. Which obviously we're going to be saying during the tier list video. Ooh, whoop, spoilers. Is that the biggest dinosaur that's actually suffered from the easy path is Carno. Because of Cerrado, in my opinion. There are so many Cerrados because it's easier to grow a Cerrado than a Carno, and it's easier to manage a Cerrado than it is to manage a Carno. So, but people still play Carno. You know? People still play Raptors, even though Cerrados exist. I just don't understand.
even though Trudon is probably the most useless creature in the game,
I still see so many
people
fucking
still play
Trudons, yes.
Yeah,
You know?
people still play Trudon. I mean, they can't do much, but people are still playing them.
Yeah.
Even though Galley right now is still nothing but a runaway creature, people still play Galley.
Yeah.
Right? So
I mean, hell, if we want to talk about people dumbing down the game, Galley got dumbed down a lot. You know, which obviously was unfortunately due to Rapt players, unfortunately. But I think it was also probably due to people playing sub Carno and sub Serrado, because I used to kill sub Carnos and sub Serrados with Galley during the PTB, which was fucking insane. Also, Galley losing the ability to jump and then land and get its speed up, because it wasn't seen as fair by the devs. It's fair enough, but like, I just don't get it. I think it's more players want to play the thing that they think is better rather than playing. Everything in the game right now actually functions quite cohesively. The issues.
Everything in the game right now, which a lot of people don't realize, is viable.
Yes. Weirdly enough.
There's no creature that is unviable. There are creatures that are more fun than other creatures.
I think that's the big issue, yes. I think the big issue is the fact that while everything has their own gimmick and their own playstyle, not everything seems to... And I think this brings back to your point earlier on, in that because there's not much to do in the game, everyone focuses on PvP. And because of PvP, a lot of dinosaurs seem a lot more unfun. Because Packy, for example, especially if you're playing Herbivore, because what do you have to do as a Herbivore player? Well, you have to yeet yourself into fucking center and then just wait for people to fucking attack you. And then you're already at a disadvantage. I think the game would be so much better if they just put more care into stuff like PvE, like not even that, but like exploring the environment, getting immersed in the world. Having more players on a server would already fix this. Or having a server that's more dynamic and has more interesting things going on, which I'm thinking the migration system probably will help with this.
Yes.
Because it will group herbivores together and then get them moving around the map. Very nice. Beautiful.
Another thing that I think is another good example for that, in PvE that is also PvP at the same time, Ceratopsian sparring ability.
Yes. Doing things with your own species.
A lot of people currently sleep on it because they haven't seen it, but I think when it's out, a lot of people will play Diablo simply for that. There is a large contingency of players that want to play the game as an animal. They want to play the game and feel like a dinosaur and feel like an animal. They don't want to play the game to just be a murder machine and kill anything they see. The problem is they are forced to do that
so.
because there's nothing but to do that.
And I think
this also brings me into the second paragraph, into another point, which is Poutine mentioning that a lot of content creators went AWOL since update 6 dropped. The case isn't because of balancing. The case is there's nothing to do in the game but fight.
Yes.
And it's also the fact that currently there is such a bad map in the game that
100%.
There's a lot of balance problems that cause this. It's not the balance issues in particular, it's the problem that the map is making bad balancing. For example, I think, even though I kind of am a bit skeptic about this, the devs said that Dino will be harder to grow in Gateway. If this is the case, and you see less Dinos,
you'll be seeing more other dinosaurs,
you'll be seeing more Tenos and more Serratos,
more Carnos, more Raptors,
which are able to then, okay, now Carnotaurus has gotten the acceleration buff, and in theory, Carno is extremely busted because of this, but because there is less Dinos because of a good map, that means I can actually use my full kit, aka the water, to my advantage, and then escape the Carno without having to worry about instigating cucked by Dinosuchus. For example...
Oh, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. For example, another thing, the migration system, which Turk mentioned earlier, would also allow for far more dynamic things. It spreads out the herbivore population, which means, essentially, there are more herbivores of the same species together than different species. And that allows for more interaction with carnivore players as a herbivore player. Because if you are more with your own species, and not with other creatures, that naturally means you are less invincible, but this also means that carnivores are more prone to try and attack you.
Yeah. I was going to say another thing, a weird self-fulfilling prophecy in the game is everyone's need to do PvP. For example, back before this was as bad, even while playing Raptor Arcano, I would frequently visit Swamp, because Tennos used to hang out there. Why? Because it was a good place for Tennos. They had a huge advantage at Swamp. But now, because everyone's pushing towards PvP, if you go to Swamp, there's nobody fucking there, because they're all in fucking center, or south, or northwest. Because everyone keeps going to these places, they inadvertently create the problem that they're trying to escape, which is interaction. Whereas if, so effectively, how the game could have been is herbivores are incentivized to be in certain areas and have things that they can do between each other that are fun to do. Like, for example, sparring or horseplay or different systems in the game to make, what were you going to say, or
with the migration zones allowing herbivores to nest much easier.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Because I admit nesting as a herbivore now is a pain in the ass.
It's a pain in the ass, exactly.
If you want to get all of the different nutrients for your children to be at the best they can be, you can't do that currently in the map. And this again ties into the map and the different systems that the devs are adding. And I'm going to say this, which I very rarely say: let the devs cook. I think the devs have actually figured it out finally, and they've gotten it into their head, which is we need to start taking this game into the root of we need to push this game to be a survival game and not a PvP game.
Yeah.
They've made the balance changes for exactly that. Now they need to add the systems to complement that as well.
Exactly. But as I was saying, like, if you had more things to do as a herbivore in your given place, what it would mean is that it would then be on the carnivores to explore the map, to find you. It seems to be that was the idea that the devs originally had when making Spearow. If you actually break it down, it looks like it was. Why are Tenno's diet seem to be around the beginnings of center going into swamp? Well, it's to incentivize Tennos being in swamps, because Tennos have an advantage in swamps. They're fast swimmers, they're able to use all their attacks within mud or like a shallowish water, whereas other dinosaurs can't. But what happens is that because the players didn't go into that system and just kept bum rushing into center, they've now created a new system which incentivized the herbivores to move around. So effectively, in a weird sort of way, where I kind of am effectively saying fuck you, if you really, really dislike the migration system, you had every single chance to not do that. And it simply was due to player actions. The devs are trying to find ways to take player psychology and their actions and create a game that works off of that. I think the migration system is going to be the fix for that. It's going to do both of those things. It's going to encourage moving around. It's going to encourage you to do more things. It's going to encourage, instead of not just the herbivores to move around, but also force the carnivores to move around to keep fucking finding you. And overall, it should be good, right? You think?
I also think that it would lend to a lot more dynamics. I think Tenno would be a kind of good example. Saying that its path, not where the zones lie, but the path toward a different zone, goes through a zone of a different creature. So Tenno, and the devs already mentioned this, you don't normally meet stegos at all. Because apparently stegos migration zones are completely far away from where the other herbivores migration zones are, which I love. However, on the way towards the migration zones, when they change, you will meet these other playables, which will then create dynamics. This also means there will be more matchups for carnivores. So, for example, as a raptor pack, we want to predominantly hunt this creature that is in our diet. How about we either go around where the migration zones change and where we know the herbivores will then go to get to that place, or we just wait out in the migration zones. What happens with that is, now the Tennos are the Tennos, only the Tennos, and no other creature go to those zones. There are young Tennos, adult Tennos, in the future elder Tennos and senior Tennos. And this creates a dynamic of, we can live in this one space until the food for the herbivores is gone. They start to move on. and then we also now have to move on if we want to keep hunting them down.
No, exactly, yeah. Instead of like I've seen quite a few people being very, very doomer about the migration system. If you embrace the system and just, as you said, let the devs cook, what you actually then create is a much more fun idea for herbivores. Not only are you traveling with other herbivores of your species, so you have this herd thing, which in itself would be pretty cool to experience. You know, as you begin to travel, more and more of your herd enters into your herd. Especially if the devs are able to pull off the netcode in order to have stable servers of like 150 people, 200 people. You know, which they said that they wanted to do. They wanted to have 200 player servers. Spearow was created in mind for 200 player servers. So consider that. You could have like 30 Tennos in a herd. That'd be beautiful to fucking see. That'd be great to be a Tenno. Like, put it in Legacy. There are events in Legacy servers which are herd events where you get from one place to the other place. And everyone fucking loves it. But migrations, all of a sudden everyone's like, it's fucking dog shit, I hate it. But just imagine, you then finally get to this place. It might be in Center, for example, in like the plains. And there's maybe like 2 different gangs of Carnos. You know? You all of a sudden then have this roadblock. You as an adult Tenno now have to like protect and defend. It creates the PvP thing you want and the experience of, you know, fighting people. Because there'll be people trying to ambush you as you're traveling. There'll be people trying to get you when you're there. But it's bad because it's not you controlling it. I'm trying to think is maybe the reason why. Maybe someone in the comments could do a whole paragraph explaining why I'm wrong about my take on my migrations. But I genuinely think it's going to be a good system. Genuinely.
Yeah. And I think with the other systems in mind, I think we're looking at an actual really good game if the devs manage to pull it off correctly.
No, exactly.
The elder system and the mutation system. If Herbivore, if nesting gives you buffs or certain perks that you want, and actually are actually good perks that make you want them, then you will also, with the migration system of the migration zones, have herbivores actually nesting.
No, yeah.
And if you have herbivores actually nesting, then not only do you have more interaction as the herbivore player with other herbivore players, you immediately get more interaction with other carnivore players because now they know, yeah, these are the migration zones. It is pretty likely that herbivores will be nesting here, which means we can try to pick off the young creatures. Right?
Yeah.
And with the elder system as well, a pack doesn't have to necessarily attack a group immediately. What they can do is they can wait around during where the migration zones cross, where you have to where the herbivores migrate towards X zones. And then what happens is they just wait there and they look at the herd. Instead of immediately attacking the herd, they just look at the herd and they see, that's a weak ass elder.
Yep.
He's old as shit.
I can go after this elder. Exactly.
We can gimp him and we can fuck him up. And then what happens is, sure, the herd mates, they may be able to protect them. But if they try to do that more and more for a longer period of time, they won't be in their migration zone. They won't have their food. They will not have diets. This also fixes mix herding being such a massive issue.
Because you're going to be away from each other, yeah.
Exactly. If Punch already said this as well. If you want to be a packy and you want to be with Stegosaurus, you can go to their zones or they can come to your zones, but neither of you will have the diets that you need.
No, exactly, yeah.
And then all the carnivore does,
just wait.
He doesn't need to do it. He just waits for you to be low, and then he can kill you.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know.
I
think this all just is like I said. If the devs manage it, and we let them cook, we're looking at a really good game.
Genuinely, I think especially as if they take certain feedback on board. For example, making it so that if you're nested in, you actually grow faster, even after you exit hatchling stage. You know, so your actual growth time is actually cut by a certain amount off the bat, straight away. You know.
Yep.
And then you then add a perfect diet onto that as well. So you grow way faster than you ever would have if you just... In fact, you would grow faster nested in than you would spawning in as a juvie and just growing like that. That'd be cool. Yes. Especially if you're able to not only gain perks when you nest people in and they grow up, but also transfer a random perk when you nest someone in.
Exactly. That's actually what the.
It would actually.
That's a comment that was a thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, I hope this is still a plan, but if your parents are very good and strong and healthy, that will carry over to their children, which then, in return, for getting nested in, simply you're getting nested in by good parents, they are inherently better than the parents would be.
Exactly. But like,
and I think it also would be far better with humans in the game once they do come into the game, because as we know, dinosaurs that spawn in from the menu, they will be trackable by humans. Nested dinosaurs won't be.
Yeah.
And I hope also in the future that with Elder System, you get better perks if you got nested in and you made it to Shminimi as an Elder.
Yep.
By being nested. I think that is one of the better things of living a natural life, not a genetic life of I was created in a lab, I spawned in, and then got to Elder. I think it would be good if it was a matter of I was nested in, I can't be tracked by humans. I'm stronger than my parents are because they're good parents.
Yeah.
I grow faster for the most part, and I also get better perks as an Elder. And this just incentivizes not only for you to nest, if you get perks for it, be nested, right? And try and make it to the end game without, just tucking yourself.
No. And also speaking about herbivores as well, it's going to be way easier for herbivores to do mass nesting than it will for carnivores. But at the same time, the very fact we have migration areas means that, say, for example, a bunch of Tennos or Pakis, for example, end up in center or the plains area of Gateway. You could actually make the choice to nest in more Carnos in that area because your food is right there. It'll be a weird tug of war thing where players are trying to gain control over a certain area, maybe even kick the other ones out. That'll be kind of cool. That's way more interesting than bum rush center to get PvP. That's just. Anyway, shall we just get down to the final thing? Anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Although we basically just addressed everything.
We've addressed everything. I can keep talking about this for hours. I mean, if we ever go through with the podcast idea, I'd love to do that. I just talk for hours. Anyways, I'm excited for Gateway, but novelty will wear off. Fair play. Novelty wears off for everything. The new system like migration might encourage players to temporarily boost a bit up herbivore numbers. But if the balance remains so one-sided in one camp, people will either quit again or choose 2 or 3 viable options where they feel they do not constantly get steamrolled. I mean, I already disagree, because we're effectively saying that if you believe what Poutine has said, and that there are so many, groundbreaking balance issues, then obviously his final comment makes perfect sense. Yes, of course, you're absolutely correct. But if you actually begin to critique it, you go, well, it's not true. It's hyperbole, So, I don't know. It just kind of falls apart. I think the reason why a lot of players have dropped out the game is because it just wasn't as interesting to do a lot of things in the game. Because there was no clear progression of the game. You spawn in, you get fully grown, that's it. With the Elder system, that's changed. With the migration system, there's more things to do between counterplay between both species. All of this can be fixed, and it will be fixed. We just need to give it time,
It's also not only that, but I think the migrations would lend to herbivores and just growing in general being more fun.
Yeah.
Because you're actually moving around the map and likely with your species as well.
Exactly.
And if you don't want to be with your species as a young dinosaur, you can go to sanctuaries.
Yeah.
Where you will inherently have protection from fully grown larger creatures like Tennos that want to gimp every smaller dinosaur or raptors. However, you will meet other juveniles and you will meet other adult small carnivores like Trudon, which also then means small carnivores that right now are completely useless will actually be good at the game. They will actually be very viable and fun options to play as. I generally think with sanctuaries, with migrations, with elder systems, all that, the game could be a lot more fun if they make it right. This is always, like I said, just a case of I hope they make it right, and if they do make it right, they have cooked.
Yeah, cool.
They've cooked. They've cooked as fucking sky blue men.
Yeah.